Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Black Coffee Conversation. I'm with Delegate Hornbuckle.
What's going on, CT?
How you doing, sir?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Loving life. We're here at the Capitol here in Charleston, West Virginia.
Yes, sir.
And just kind of tell us what's been going on here, in this session.
Well, we have a lot going on, but not a lot going on. What we've done so far this session is we have introduced bills that don't move the needle. They went back into the playbook of trying to run social agendas. Earlier this week, we had the Pastor Protection Act.
What is that? Explain that.
Well, the Pastor Protection Act is just a political gimmick. The First Amendment already protects the right of churches not being forced to marry anyone out of their sincerely held religious beliefs. But what they've done is they wanted to have a bill that stated exactly the same thing, essentially, just to try to get their base riled up and get people out to vote and pander to folks. So it's a lot of political games going on. And it's really sad because we're in the midst right now of the whole PEIA debacle, if you will, where state employees right now, their insurance is just not good. It's not a good thing. The premiums have gone up.
Yes.
Their benefits have gone down. They've decreased as well. And we have had, since the Republican majority has been in power, inaction on trying to help our state employees. So we're trying to get the other side right now as best as we can and come across the aisle and really help out our state employees. And especially with our teachers, their pay is always ranking in the bottom of America. The least that we can do is make sure that they have good benefits to keep them here and make them want to do that because they do such a good job for our children. Yeah. So we're really trying to help the PEIA issue, but we just don't have good leadership right now to address that.
We have the midterm elections coming up, this year, and the voter turnout is always a little lower.
Yes.
How do we energize, the base of people to not only come out for the general, presidential elections,
yes,
but when the midterms come, those are just as important. How do we energize those people to come out and, either vote for, what candidate you think is, going to serve your interests?
Well, I think first what we got to look here right in our backyard and say, have you been helped lately? And you haven't. The facts are is that they've talked about jobs this, jobs that, but they haven't created any jobs. The only thing they've done is cut wages. What I also always talk about is to advance our state, we have to have net migration. We have to have young people move here. And when young people move here, different jobs will start to flock here because they want more educated people to be here, but they also want people who are willing to learn a new trade so they can put their business here. What that also boils down to is having a socially inviting environment. West Virginia historically has not really been open socially and culturally. So if we start to move towards those things, all right, you will have a lot of millennials that will move here. Also, once you do that, you will be able to expand the tax base. More people equals more tax dollars without having to raise taxes. So that's how you will be able to fund your services and things of that nature. We also got to start thinking outside of the box on innovative ways to curb crime, violence, and drugs, all right? You can't do the old lock them up stuff. That stuff doesn't work. All it does is target different communities, or specific communities rather.
Yeah, black communities.
And black communities and poor white communities.
That too, yeah.
But there's not a lot of working together with the poor whites and the blacks to be able to understand the issues and be on one page to really, really be able to fight these issues. So once we do that and stop the whole just lock them up stuff, do things that make sense, lock up the people that are truly doing things, but you can't lock up everybody because it just doesn't work. So we need to address those issues to be supportive of our communities, and we also need to make sure that we are looking at other things such as tourism, all right?
Yes,
we have
agree.
some pledges towards tourism right now, but is it enough? And we have to really get down to the numbers and sense things and make sure it's enough. And as I talk all the time, while it is not a silver bullet, we have to be open to adult use cannabis. Adult use cannabis. Well, adult use cannabis, medicinal is fine.
Oh, adult use cannabis.
Adult
Okay,
use
marijuana.
Cannabis,
okay,
absolutely. We always do this thing in West Virginia where it's like we're fighting to be behind everybody. We want to be last to the table. If we had adult use cannabis with our whitewater rafting, hiking, our fishing, just our natural ambiance, we could be the playground of the East Coast.
I agree with you on
People
that.
would flock here by the droves. And we would also be able to better set up our playbook to be a residential place for retirees. You know, you got to look at what one of your strengths is. We do have an aging population, but if we can do some things on the back end to make some of those people that always go to Florida maybe want to move up here to experience 4 seasons, low cost of living, that is how you build your numbers.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, you know, my thing is, you know, we should sell escapism.
Yes.
Like you said, like the hiking,
yes.
the whitewater rafting, the camping, the
yes.
skiing, the snowboarding, and like I said, and add marijuana if you want to.
Yes.
And the thing is, I don't see them pushing that as much as I think they can because, you know, we kind of think like, well, coal, we're gonna bring coal back.
Yes.
That's always the thing. And, you know, we have President, 45 talking about, and we're gonna bring back the coal jobs,
Yes.
but industries come and go all the time.
Absolutely, all the time.
And I don't think we ever had a backup plan. It was always, plan A, and this is what's going to be for generation for generation. But when you're dealing with a resource that, is a natural resource, it's not something
Yes.
you can reproduce.
Absolutely.
And when it's gone, it's gone. And then also technology is taking us somewhere else.
Absolutely. And you also got to look at it from a natural resource standpoint. Coal, we've seen a spike. We saw a spike actually in coal the end of Obama's tenure because of some different things. But we've also seen another bump just because of deregulation of Trump, with all things being equal. But what we've got to really focus on is all the fracking, the natural gas, and that element. We have been said to be the Saudi Arabia of the U.S. So what we need to do is make sure that we're not getting fleeced like we have forever with coal and letting people come in, pillage our residents, and take all the money out. We need to make sure that we're holding all those guys accountable. We want to be open to business and we want to be business friendly. But right now, North Dakota, they have 11% severance tax on their natural gas. And there's no businesses leaving that state. We're only at 5%. Could you imagine the money we could bring in even if we just went to 8%, went halfway of what North Dakota's doing? I mean, that would be a phenomenal influx of money here to help build roads and bridges, to help with our, other infrastructure, to help with our services, all those different types of things, and to put money back in the kitty for all of our state employees, our teachers. It would just be such a huge thing. But what they're trying to do right now, the Republican majority, is decrease severance tax. They're wanting more money to go out of the state. So, we really have to look at these things and say, what is going to be good for all of our people? What's going to grow the state? And try to get away from just giving everything to corporations.
Yeah, I agree. Let's kind of focus on, the black community.
Yes, sir.
We're in Charleston right now.
Yes, sir.
Your district is in Huntington.
Yes, sir.
That's a strong, we're still small numbers in this state, but, that's where majority of, not majority, but that's where a large number of us stay.
Yes.
What is the state of Black West Virginia right now, in your opinion?
The state of Black West Virginia. Well, the state of Black West Virginia, we have lots of issues right now that need to be addressed. The first one that need to be addressed is just overall togetherness. A lot of times, as black folks, we don't do a good enough job of supporting each other. And what I mean by that is being supportive of that local businessman in your community that has that shoe store, that lady down the street that has a catering business, that black financial advisor. We don't do a good enough job of supporting each other. Once we do that, that is the first step to creating economic wealth and economic prosperity. You have to have that to have skin in the game. So that's the first step that we have to do. We also have to do a better job of community members of working with legislators, law enforcement, pastoral associations, and creating good common sense legislation. About 3 weeks ago in Huntington, I got to group together of attorneys, black pastors, and law enforcement, both from West Virginia State University, Chief Saunders, and Captain, actually now Chief Hank Dow in Huntington, West Virginia, and start talking about good common sense laws that will help folks and will bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community, but also, again, not be the old just lock them up style, because that doesn't do anything but just hurt the community. So we're trying to do different innovative things there as well, and do some different community building with just cleaning up the community, making it aesthetically pleasing. But also what I talk about, the community component of jobs, trying to partner with folks like the chamber and things like that, doing creative things that, make sure all the downtown business owners are promoting diversity in their workforce, and not just their workforce, but also upper level management. Because again, the key is to have economic prosperity to try to help some of these issues.
I agree. And here at Charleston, they recently raised the city fee to $3.
Yes.
As a to hire 10 more police.
Absolutely.
And my thing is, you don't police poverty.
Yes.
Wherever there is poverty, there's going to be crime. And that's the underlying issue. If these people have no hope, no job,
yes,
no models of possibility,
absolutely,
they might resort to crime. And this idea, like you said, we're just going to lock everybody up. Okay, you're targeting the most vulnerable people.
Yes,
but are they the most ruthless criminals?
Well, not by a long shot. What I tell people, violence is everywhere. At the end of the day, we know that we've had some things that happened in Huntington, happened on the west side, and though that's crime, and those are sometimes violent crimes, and they need to be dealt with swiftly and harshly. However, we can't also turn a blind eye to domestic terrorism. There's a lot of places in the U.S., some places in our beautiful neck of the woods that we can't go because they're not inviting us. You have people, whether they're rapists, whether they're, the guy that was out in Vegas that shot up the country concert. Okay, and what we have to do is band together as West Virginians, as Americans, and make sure that we're punishing all crime, all violence acts. Because what happens is when you just point it at a certain community, you make it really hard, and you start to build a negative stereotype that's just absolutely false.
Yes.
And once you do that, it is hard for somebody to want to hire somebody when you build up these false perceptions. So I always talk about, if you are in the law enforcement looking at people on an equity basis and saying, hey, this guy's doing wrong, but that guy's doing wrong too, then it's a different outlook, and I think we gain from that by not always being the person that people are putting the blame on everything.
Yeah, I agree. How do we get, the black base more engaged in the political process?
Well, one of the things that I learned, I love my teachers who are here today at the Capitol. They're fighting for what's right. I love my unions. They fought for what's right several years past. But what I learned from them, they come up here in droves, in numbers, and beat on these lawmakers' doors, beat on the governor's doors, beat on the people in public works doors. Their strength in numbers. We need to build a coalition across the state. Huntington, Beckley, Charleston,
Bluefield,
Morgantown, Bluefield, Wheeling, and everywhere in between, and get thousands of people, all right? Black, Mexicans, poor whites. You jump on in too. If they start understanding that they're in the same boat, we can have a lot of power and start fighting for what we know is right. And once we do that, especially communities of African Americans, get thousands of people up here at the Capitol, put the pressure on them, hold their feet to the fire. And once you do that, we'll start creating better legislation to help us out. We'll also put the pressure on, business communities, industry communities, and say, hey, we're just as smart as anybody else. We actually have an advantage. We've grown up in a place, CT, to where we're, on average, 3 to 7% of the whole population. We have to operate in a way to be successful that we can go anywhere in the world and help out this business that is in West Virginia. At the end of the day, we're the biggest asset that they have. Not only do we know how to operate and converse and do business with folks who are white, but we can be advantageous to them to spreading their businesses down to Atlanta's and DC's, where there's bigger pockets of diversity and culture. We are their biggest asset. And once they see that, we can help that wealthy power broker here in West Virginia to increase their bottom line. And when we help them increase their bottom line, we increase our bottom line, we build up our community, you squash out poverty, that crime goes away, and everybody wins. We just have to start being on the same page and just looking at it like that.
I agree. Last question. How do we build or how do we engage with the young folks who may not, act, on a daily basis, like say, see models of possibility,
Yes.
see black businessmen and women,
Yes.
see,
Yes.
black men and women out there engaging the
Yes.
community. They may, wake up hungry
Yes.
and go to school hungry.
Absolutely.
May live with a single parent.
Absolutely.
What is the first step we should do to start, trying to build up these youth? The youth of the future. How
Yes.
do we start building them up so that, for our grandchildren and their children come forward, can have a better life?
It goes back to us being together, being on the same page, getting back in our communities, taking some of the young professionals that we have, or even the older professionals that are more established, have a career, and just simply start going to schools. It's seen as believing. Once you're a person and you let that little kid see you and you're still regular, they can still approach you in the grocery store the same way that they approach you in the school when you went to go visit them. That resonates. And once you break down those barriers, they will be able to say, hey, if he did it, I can do it. But you also can't just be a guy that's going to fly in, that's going to fly out. You can't be a woman that's going to fly in and fly out. You have to have consistent contact with our youth and making sure that they know that you're really there for them and will always be there for them. And that will start to build them up.
Great. All right, everybody. This was a special edition of a Black Coffee Conversation
Yes,
here at the Capitol.
Black Coffee, appreciate you all.
Yes, and we're here with Delegate Hornbuckle, and we're going to stop by, check on you again. And
Yes, sir. You're always welcome.
Yes, and keep up the good fight.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate it.